pray, dear viewer, lend me your imagination for but a moment. Picture a river that has never known thirst. Not in drought, not in blistering heat, not in the cruelest famine of rain. A river that has flowed since before men learned to write their histories. Scholars cannot trace its origin, nor can science explain its endless supply. Those who claim to have seen its source have never returned to tell the tale. Tonight, we unveil a chronicle long hidden behind polite smiles and fearful whispers. This is no ordinary documentary. This is an account gathered from forbidden journals, forgotten letters, and voices that trembled as they spoke. Welcome, if you dare, to the story of the river that never runs dry. Beyond the edges of any respectable map, deep within a forest so ancient that even the wind speaks softly within it, lies a river named Everflow. Its waters gleam like polished silver beneath the sun and glow faintly blue beneath the moon. The trees surrounding it grow crooked, their bark pale and peeling, as though terrified of what flows beside them. No bird will nest near its banks, no beast drinks from its surface. Yet the river runs ceaselessly, murmuring secrets in a tongue no mortal fully understands. It is said that the river is older than the kingdom itself, older than the crowns of kings, older than prayer. At the forest's edge rests a village called Ashvale. To visitors, it appears charming. Neat cottages, blooming gardens, polite folk with courteous smiles. Yet beneath their civility lies a tremor of dread. After sunset, no laughter rings out, no door remains unlocked, and every household keeps a charm of black river stone above the hearth. Children are taught a rhyme before they learn to read. When silver waters softly call, turn thy back, ignore them all. None dare question its meaning. Outsiders assume quaint superstition. The villagers know better. They live not beside the river, but at its mercy. One crisp morning, a carriage arrived from the capital bearing 3 curious souls. Lady Helena Ward, a journalist famed for uncovering hidden truths. Mr. Marco Reed, a photographer of clever contraptions called moving picture cameras. And Dr. Alistair Hale, a scholar obsessed with rivers and their mysteries. They had come upon rumors of Everflow and intended to document it for the world. The villagers greeted them with politeness, though their eyes darted nervously toward the forest. When Helena asked of the river's source, an old woman crossed herself and whispered, "Some waters are best left unseen." Dr. Hale's excitement burned bright. A river untroubled by drought could change civilization itself. He insisted they visit at dawn. The villagers protested, yet one young man named Jonah agreed to guide them. He carried a wooden staff carved with strange sigils and wore an expression far older than his years. Before departing, he issued a warning. "Should the river speak thy name, answer not, no matter how sweet the voice." Helena laughed politely. Marco adjusted his camera. Dr. Hale barely listened. Only Jonah understood the peril awaiting them. They entered the forest as mist curled around their boots. The deeper they ventured, the quieter the world became. Birds ceased their song. Leaves ceased their rustle. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Marco's camera flickered, though its batteries were new. Helena noticed footprints pressed into the soil ahead, human in shape, yet stretched unnaturally long. Jonah urged haste, refusing to glance behind. A faint sound of running water echoed through the trees, growing louder with each step, as though the river anticipated their arrival. At last they reached the bank. Everflow lay before them, dazzling and dreadful. Its waters shimmered like moonlight poured into a glass vessel. Mist drifted above the surface, curling like living breath. Dr. Hale stepped forward, enraptured. Helena dipped her fingers into the current. The water was warm, comfortingly warm. Marco raised his camera to capture the scene. Yet the river made no sound. Not a ripple, not a splash. Only silent motion, endless and smooth, like time itself. Marco zoomed his lens toward the center of the river. Suddenly, his breath caught. Beneath the surface, faint yet unmistakable, were faces. Dozens, hundreds, eyes open, mouths parted, hands reaching upward as though begging release. Marco dropped the camera in terror. When Helena peered into the water, it was clear again, innocent, reflecting only sky. Jonas snatched the device and switched it off. "It sees through glass," he muttered. Dr. Hale scoffed at superstition, yet even he swallowed uneasily. With trembling hands, Dr. Hale filled a small vial with river water. The liquid within pulsed faintly, like a beating heart. Helena urged they depart, yet Hale was consumed by discovery. "We must find its source," he declared. Jonas' face drained of color. "There is no source," he replied, "only arrival." Nevertheless, Hale strode along the bank, compelling the others to follow. The mist thickened. The forest shifted. Paths twisted. It became unclear which way led home. As they walked, Helena heard a whisper rising from the water, a familiar voice, her mother's, dead these many years. "Helena," it called tenderly. She stepped closer to the edge, heart aching. Jonas seized her arm and pulled her away. "Do not listen," he warned. Marco's camera suddenly turned on of its own accord. Upon the screen appeared scenes never filmed. Men and women stepping into the river, smiling serenely as they vanished beneath the surface. One figure on the screen turned toward the lens. Dr. Hale. Yet the real Hale stood beside them, very much alive. Marco cried out and hurled the camera against a stone. The glass shattered. At once the river stirred. Its waters climbed the bank without wind or rain. Mist coiled around their ankles. Dr. Hale's eyes gleamed with wonder. "It lives," he whispered. "A living miracle." Before anyone could stop him, he stepped into the river, fully clothed, smiling as though greeting an old friend. Helena and Jonah grasped his arms, trying to drag him back, yet his strength doubled unnaturally. Calm and joyous, Hale waded deeper. The water embraced him. No struggle, no fear. He sank silently, leaving not so much as a ripple. Instantly the river lowered again, placid as a painted portrait. Helena screamed his name. Marco fell to his knees. Jonah bowed his head. "It has taken another," he whispered. They fled along the bank, desperate to escape. Yet the forest had rearranged itself. Trees blocked their passage. Roots rose like serpents. Voices drifted through the mist. "Stay, belong, join us." Marco broke free and ran ahead. Helena and Jonah followed his cries until they reached a clearing. There Marco stood, smiling vacantly. Behind him flowed a new stream, a fresh branch of the river, shining and hungry. Without resistance, he stepped into it and disappeared. Helena watched helplessly as the stream shimmered brighter. Only Helena and Jonah remained. They collapsed beneath an ancient tree. Shaking, Helena demanded answers. Jonah spoke of history long buried. Generations ago, Ashvale had suffered dreadful drought. Crops failed. Children starved. Then the river appeared, offering endless water. In gratitude, the villagers worshipped it. Yet soon they learned its price. For every season of abundance, a life must be given. If offerings ceased, the river would rise and drown the valley entire. Thus, sacrifices continued, whispered away beneath polite tradition. "The river never runs dry," Jonah said solemnly, "because it drinks us." Helena realized the charms, the silence, the fearful courtesy of the villagers were not superstition, but survival. Outsiders were welcomed not out of hospitality, but necessity, fresh lives to appease ancient thirst. The knowledge turned Helena's stomach. She wished only to flee and warn the world. Yet Jonah shook his head. "No one escapes once the river has seen them," he said. "It will always find you." At dusk, they returned to Ashvale. No one questioned why only 2 had come back. The villagers simply lowered their eyes, ashamed yet resigned. The elder approached Helena. "You have gazed upon truth," he said. "Now thou must choose. Depart, and the river's hunger will follow thee. Remain, and thou shalt shield others from its call." Helena refused such fate. She turned and ran toward the village edge, heart pounding with terror and fury. She reached the boundary and struck an unseen wall of cold mist. She pounded it, kicked it, screamed. The barrier held firm. A gentle voice whispered in her mind, sweet as lullaby. Memories blurred. Fear melted into calm. Helena's limbs softened. Slowly, smiling, she turned back toward the village. Jonah watched helplessly as she walked away, eyes reflecting silver-blue water. The river had claimed her mind, though not her body. Months passed. Helena now swept the temple steps each morning, silent and serene. She spoke rarely, and when she did, her voice carried a faint echo, like water in a cave. New children were taught the warning rhyme. New charms were hung. Life in Ashvale continued, polite and quiet. Yet the river grew wider. Its mist stretched farther into the forest. Its whisper carried farther across the land. Years rolled onward. Drought struck distant kingdoms. Rivers cracked. Wells dried. Yet Everflow gleamed eternal. Scholars sent machines into the forest. None returned. Soldiers marched in. None returned. Roads disappeared beneath twisting roots. Maps blurred as though ashamed to mark the cursed place. The world beyond forgot Ashvale's existence. But the river remembered the world. Within the village, children played near the misty edges, unafraid. They called the river their protector, their blessing, their god. Every few years, a traveler wandered in, guided by rumors of endless water. Each was welcomed warmly, fed generously, lodged comfortably, before being guided gently toward the forest. None ever departed, and so the river's thirst was met. Jonah grew old, his hair silvered like the river itself. One evening, he walked alone to the bank. The water reflected every face he had delivered to it. Guilt weighed heavy upon him. He knelt and whispered, "Enough." Without struggle, he stepped into the current. Warmth embraced him. The river accepted its faithful servant. Mist glowed brighter. Trees stood still. The village slept peacefully. Decades later, a new carriage arrived at Ashvale. A fresh documentary crew stepped out, eager, curious, ambitious. The villagers greeted them with the same polite smiles, the same nervous glances, the same gentle warnings. The newcomers laughed kindly and dismissed such cautions as quaint folklore. That night, the river sang softly through the forest, a lullaby of hunger. Some whispered that the river was an ancient god. Others claimed it a punishment for sins long forgotten. Scholars speculated it a marvel of nature, yet those who sought its truth never returned to debate it. Only the villagers knew, and they never spoke plainly. To speak truth aloud was to invite the river's attention. Far beyond the forest, cities thirsted. Governments searched for water. Engineers built dams. Scientists drilled deep. Yet no solution lasted. None knew that salvation, or doom, flowed endlessly in a hidden forest, drinking lives in exchange for abundance. The forest expanded each year, swallowing old roads, devouring landmarks, erasing paths. Travelers lost their way, hearing whispers of water guiding them deeper. Few resisted. Curiosity and desperation drew them onward. At night, across the world, people sleeping near rivers heard faint voices beneath the current. Some swore their names were called. Most dismissed it as dream. A few rose from their beds and followed the sound, never to be seen again. In Ashvale, Helena still swept the temple steps, unchanged by age. Her eyes shone with soft silver light. She no longer remembered her former life, only her duty: to serve, to keep the river calm, to ensure the world beyond remained safe from its flood. The villagers aged. New children were born. New sacrifices were offered. The rhythm of life continued, bound to water's will. Politeness masked terror. Tradition disguised bondage. And beneath it all, Everflow moved endlessly, endlessly, endlessly. If one walks alone at night beside any river, some claim a second current may be heard beneath the first. A whisper, a murmur, a call. Few dare listen long enough to recognize the words. Fewer still dare answer, for deep within the forgotten forest, beyond maps and reason, the river that never runs dry continues to flow. It remembers every name, every face, every life it has taken, and it is never satisfied. Should you ever hear water calling softly in the darkness, pray you have the wisdom to turn away, for the river is always thirsty,